You sure as hell know that something weird is going on down on the farm when you have, on the one hand, a campaign group like Rewilding Britain heaping praise on, of all people, DEFRA, the government's agricultural department. Now, why? Because they are heralding what government is proposing of something towards a green light to the rewilding movement. But it's very early days, and that might be over-egging it somewhat. But there's no doubt the government is pointing towards rethinking what farmers do, what they produce. Of course it's food, but do they not also, with the right subsidies and payments and incentives, also safeguard a biosphere which, let's face it, across these islands, not just in England, is in danger of going over a cliff. And that's why we've been out in the glory that is the Pennines, and today in Cumbria on the fells.
Too many sheep, too few trees. The Pennine landscape we pretend is natural and is anything but.
I think the countryside, I think it needs a massive renaissance, not a revolution.
Yesterday, Roger Tempest's plan to rewild more than 300 hectares of these fells and fields with 600,000 trees was radical. Today, it's government policy in all but name.
We've been here 32 generations trying to look after this bit of land in the back of Yorkshire. And, it's our duty. The world's in, its environmental crisis, social crisis. It's time to act.
So the government now proposes paying farmers for a lot more than food. Natural flood protection, reforestation, public land access, and the return of our lost biodiversity. All of that now possible because of Brexit.
Brexit enables us to escape from the common agricultural policy, which was driving farmers to basically farm the land in an unsustainable way, which means
the bigger you were, the more money you got.
Yes, that's right, and it wasn't their choice. It's not their fault. It's just that's what the policies drove, and it's quite clear that it hasn't worked in terms of the sustainable future for agricultural land, because the soils have degraded. We have more and more problems with water rushing off, and these billiard table landscapes causing flooding downstream. So the new arrangement, which is being proposed by government, is that farmers are rewarded for delivering public goods like better flood risk management, like water quality, carbon sequestration, better biodiversity, etc.
But paying landowners and farmers to restore biodiversity ruined by too many sheep and too few trees may mean fewer sheep farmers.
It's also a lot of livelihoods, isn't it? It's a lot of upland farmers. How do they come with you on this journey?
There's so much, of farms, I don't know what the statistic is at the moment, but 70% of farmers have an income separate from the farm. There's huge change going on anyway. But in terms of, I think there'll be room. Some of the types of farmings are dying out. They are dying out. It's going to be a thing of the past. And these new ways are going to come forward. But that's always been the case, hasn't it?
Changing landscape, changing farming. The National Farmers Union is concerned all this could lower production, and the threat of cheap meat imports from countries with lower welfare and food safety standards is real. They call it Wild Ennerdale, one of England's most established and successful wilding projects, run by United Utilities, the Forestry Commission, National Trust, amongst others, for almost 20 years now in the Lake District.
We're starting to see more bird territories, different species coming back. Green woodpecker's a nice example of that. An increase in dipper in the river. We're seeing more dipper, which is fantastic. Marsh fritillary butterfly, extinct in Cumbria in the 1970s. We brought marsh fritillary back again just over 10 years ago.
Looks like something out of Canada, but in fact, this is an English tenant farm. Now, if the government's serious and if the government delivers on what it's talking about, it will make in future safeguarding areas like this and their enormous biodiversity a part of conventional farming, not just focusing on food production alone.
Once a concrete ford stood here, now it's been returned to the natural river course, a key fish spawning ground for Arctic char. Far fewer sheep means trees naturally reseed the fell side. Rowan, larch, birch, oak, holly and more. Today, the wild roaming Galloway herd was penned for blood testing by the vet. Otherwise, you'd be lucky to see them grazing semi-wild over fell and forest here.
There is a boss, there is a matriarch that will decide when it's time to move up the valley or further away or under cover, under the trees. So you can observe from a distance and see how she will call and the others will respond. It's amazing really to stand back and watch how they act. Totally different to my cows at home in the fields.
His flock of Herdwick sheep has radically reduced in number. Yet hill farming, he says, has never been as much fun, never been easier, and never made money like now.
14 years ago, some people thought we were a bit strange, turning away from full-on productive continental cattle farming to now we just have Galloways and Herdwicks and traditional type of farming. And we only have to look back to see how things were done a lot of years ago and consider why they were doing it that way. Because it fit best to the land and it fit best to the environment and the climate. And those are all things we need to consider. So yeah, some people still think I'm a bit strange. Some people have come on board and doing similar things now in the area. So yeah, hopefully I'm not too much of a lunatic.
There are wider social benefits too, and they could attract payment. The River Liza runs wild here, taking its own slower natural course, and thus Ennerdale withstood Storm Desmond in 2015, while so much of Cumbria flooded catastrophically. Alex Thompson, Channel 4 News, Ennerdale.
Well, with me now is Nick von Westenholz from the National Farmers Union. He is their Director for International Trade and Exiting the EU. Welcome to the programme. First of all, we heard lots of positive noises from Cumbria there, but we're talking about the biggest shake-up in farming since the 1940s. Are your members ready for this?
Well, I think they are actually, because we had one full start on this already. The bill was actually introduced a year and a half ago. What we've seen today is a new bill, broadly along the same lines, but actually I think it's certainly improved. Our concerns with the original bill, and I think where farmers were certainly concerned, was with an emphasis on environmental measures and public goods, the sort of things we've seen in that package, but without the food production alongside it. Now, those environmental measures are very important. Farmers are really keen to do their bit, but they're also food producers. And I think what we want from the system that replaces the cap is one that encourages a sustainable food system. So it delivers both affordable food for the nation, but also environmental goods.
So it's about a balance.
Indeed.
Will it be easier for some farms than others? I'm thinking about large industrial farms versus small landowners.
Well, I think you look at different sizes of farms, different types of farms, farming different sectors. They've all got challenges. And I think there is a nervousness that some will find it far easier to tap into the sorts of public goods that are being proposed in this bill. And that's why actually another aspect of the bill which talks about helping farms with their productivity is really important as well. What we don't want to see is domestic policy underpinning a kind of high value, high cost, high standard farming, which is good, but one which isn't rewarded by the market, and therefore actually farms aren't able to deliver anything at all because they're not operating.
So you're touching there on the idea of cheap imports coming into the UK and undercutting British farmers. Is that a concern?
That's absolutely a concern. I think this is just half of the picture, what we're seeing here today. This is the domestic policy piece, how we provide the framework to encourage our farmers to produce in a sustainable manner. But if at the same time you haven't got a trade policy that supports and safeguards that as well, then you won't achieve what you want at all. And we're very, very concerned about the prospect of doing trade deals which allow substandard food into the UK.
Dare I say it, chlorine-dipped chicken, is that what we're talking about?
Well, that is but one example, but there are many others. You look at, for example, the requirements for poultry farmers on stocking density or the use of hormone growth promoters in pig production. All of these sorts of things are examples of where you have pretty high standards here in the UK and the EU and lower standards elsewhere in the world. And if you want to maintain the sorts of production we have here and even enhance it, then you cannot let that be undermined by trade policy, which lets in substandard goods.
Consumers might quite like it, cheaper prices.
Well, I'm not sure that's right, actually. I think consumers are really proud of the way that food is produced in this country. And I think there is a certain reliance that these standards are just part and parcel of food production. I think they would be quite alarmed if they thought that the direction of travel for the food they find on their shop shelves after Brexit is one where that food is produced to lower standards. I don't think that's what anybody really saw as being one of the bonuses from Brexit.
So positive, but holding our breath on the trade policy. Is that
well, I think it's two parts. The trade policy is as important as this if we want the sorts of things we heard about in that package from British farming.